Thank you very much. Thank you very much for everyone for joining. I hope you had a chance to look at the book, and thank you, Karen. Thank you, Eran. I wish also to thank Yaniv Sagi and Riyad Kaba. Yaniv, the CEO of Givat Haviva, Riyad Kaba, the former head, emeritus head of the Center for Jewish Arab Center Givat Haviva, for giving me the opportunity to be part of the team and to take part in developing the model and for then helping with the conceptualization program. And I thank also the entire Givat Haviva team for all the efforts, the long, many years efforts for the work that was done in the program and will continue hopefully to be done. These are strange times, obviously times of crisis. I will address towards the end of my talk also extreme conditions and crisis management. I will come back to it in relation to the program as well. In the book, my attempt is to bring together both the theoretical foundations, a more abstract academic discussion in the first part, and the second part is more concrete, presenting the applied aspects of the model. My hope is that theoreticians will find interest and invest also in the second, and that practitioners will invest in the first. Today, I will focus more on the theoretical components that are the underpinnings which we cannot do without, and that gets me to my second slide. Okay, we talk about theory. Let me get rid of this thing because it's in your way, I believe. All right, better now? Okay, theory and practice come together. It's a purpose-driven practice where when we talk about the practices, the how to do the work, what is it that you actually do, we need to take a step back and to look at the principles that underlie the practices, and even then go further or deeper into the premises, the why, the first philosophy from which everything emerges. Or as Kurt Lewin said it, hold on, I have a problem here, technical issue. Let me see. I need to get rid of distance somehow. Okay, that's better. As Kurt Lewin put it so nicely, there's nothing more practical than a good theory, meaning that we have to have the theory to guide us, otherwise we're shooting in the dark. If we're looking at long-term sustainable change, we need to have a good theory to help us, to lead the way. So that's highly, highly important. I do not wish to assume that you're all familiar with the model and the how to, so I will take a few minutes, short minutes, just to give you a general description of the model and of the program, the Shared Communities program. In the past decade or so, Givat Haviva led or facilitated a number of partnerships in the Wadi Ara region, which you see now in the map. The Wadi Ara comprises of complex kind of weaving of Jewish and Arab municipalities together. So we see Emek Hefer and Zemer in yellow, Bakal Garbia and Menashe in green, Pardes Chana and Kfar Kara in blue, Ma'ale Ron and Megiddo further towards the north in red. The ones in purple did not materialize in the book. There's a lengthy description of what happened there and what are the takeaways and the learnings. But that at large is the map of the region of Wadi Ara in which we worked in. The program aims at constructing intercommunal partnership between neighboring communities and the regional mindset in the entire region. So we both work on shared communities between the neighboring municipalities and also at large programs that have to do with the entire region. I will not go too much into the regional aspects, although they're really kind of hot now. We're talking about the Eshkolot, those of you familiar in Israel, and regional work. So we're doing also regional work. We will leave it for later discussions, the entire regional aspect. So when we look at the program, so we have the municipality heads at the top. They take a decision, they take a commitment to enter a 4-year program. And the 4-year program that they take a commitment to enter is taken together with their entire council or leadership in the municipality. They bring it to a decision of the council, then shape a steering committee where we have a couple of other members from senior members of the municipality and a partnership director, also a senior member of the municipality, who's taking the lead. He'll be the kind of the integrator of the project manager of the program within the municipality. They build together, each community separately and then together, but each community decides on the participants from their community, about 10 to 12 people that will be part of their municipality partnership leadership team that comprises not only of people from the council, but also people from the community and people from also the business sector. And then later they will decide jointly, after undergoing a process of reflecting and thinking and mapping the interest that they have with regard to what they want to advance, they will decide jointly together in a seminar, the intensive seminar that we do, shut down at a hotel somewhere, and then for a few days, they will decide on what are the issues that they want to work on, and then they build working teams to execute that. The decision-taking process is done by the people themselves, but is being aided by mapping and assessment reports done. In this case, we see the back cover of the assessment report of the municipality, between the partnership between Baka and Menashe, done by Professor Rassem Khamaisi, who is with us today, and he'll be joining us later at the panel. Professor Khamaisi is mapping and assessing and looking into the possibilities, capabilities, potentialities, barriers, challenges. He brings that forward in order to allow the leadership team get a better sense of their region, what's possible, what are the downsides, difficulties, what needs more work. He also lectures to them. He provides a presentation and then lengthy discussion. But as I said, the decision is taken by the leadership team about what it is they wish to do. The program at large works on three circles. We have the educational circle, we have the communal circle, and we have the municipal circle. Is a holistic program, so it works on all 3 dimensions, and all 3 of them are highly important and they get attention. Let me just take one quick minute for an example, a concrete example, because that was quite abstract. Don't worry, it will get more abstract in a minute, but I do want to make it a little bit more concrete. And here is an example of the Megiddo Ma'ale Iron partnership, in which the leadership team decided that they wish to work on environmental issues. So they constructed an environmental team, which then decided to work on the Miska streambed rehabilitation project. Here we see photos at the top of people already after the project was completed, doing some joint projects in the community. You see people walking in the path, a beautiful path. The project was aimed at ecological rehabilitation and the creation of a walking path along the Miska streambed for the use and benefit of the public, and development of parks around it. So we see the ceremony, we see the mayors there planting a tree together with our own Riyad Kabha. And it's interesting also to share that, in fact, before focusing on the Miska streambed, there's a decision of this partnership was to focus on another project. But that project surfaced some sensitive issues. I won't go into the contents now, but it brought tension. Had to do with Jewish-Arab relations, but also internally with each of the communities. And it was a year into a program, but thanks to the good relations and joint interest that we already laid, the partnership was able to manage the tension constructively. Otherwise, without the foundations that were constructed, it would have been brought to a breakdown of the entire collaboration. So The team worked together jointly. They asked for a grant, huge grant, and a very complex grant to file to hand in. That usually they were lacking the capacities, especially in the Arab community, to handle such grant proposals. They asked for 1.7 million shekels. They got 1.7 million shekels. That in this particular grant donor, usually you don't get the entire amount, and they were able to execute this project. This is a concrete project. I'll come back to it later. I will now move forward to the more theoretical aspects that I promised you that I will try to engage with, and I am asking, laying out the question: why did I choose this title, between pragmatism and dialogue? So when we go back to the discourse, the literature in mediation, conflict resolution, the two large main schools that are in some sort of an inconsistent battle between them, kind of the frameworks of problem solving, the more pragmatic framework of problem solving, and then the relational approach, relational worldview that has other perspectives in mind with regard to what do we do when we intervene as conflict resolvers. Problem-solving approach is interest-based. It's about looking at the interests that each party has. It's about helping each party identify his or her or their, as a community, interests and needs separately, and each party defining the good for him and herself. And then the project is pragmatic, looking into shared interests and how to exhaust or how to satisfy the needs and the interest of each one of them. The relational approach, on the other hand, is more of an interactionist approach, communication-based. It's more about the transformation of conflict interaction. It's about the co-construction of the good and the desired jointly, and it has different premises, different worldview, different practices that usually don't go together. It's usually an either or. Either you're a problem solver in your approach or you're doing more of the relational work. I will try to make the claim here, and the book does that, and our model does that, that shared society requires both. And the model offers some sort of a synthesis that hopefully works together and provides something that is innovative and new. We start, as I mentioned, with the problem-solving process. I did say that we're about to identify needs and interests of each of the parties. People come together with some sort of hesitation, lack of trust, other priorities. We're talking about senior members of municipalities. They have other things of the mind. They're not necessarily committed, putting the partnership on the top of the list, certainly not partnership per se. They're participating in the project. Usually at this stage, we need to kind of push forward and help things transpire. As we see the execution and advancement of interest without necessarily entire satisfaction of it, then we get to see people getting more into a collaborative mindset. People collaborate together. It's no longer a discussion or rather a conversation, and they are working together as we progress. And this is spiral, by the way, going up and going down in all directions. It's not a linear process. It's never is. Then we move into the satisfaction of needs. People are happy when they see results. For example, the Miska Rivers steam bed, when you see this opening ceremony, that provides a lot of satisfaction, a lot of sense of energy about the project, and people move forward and are more committed. And the process, all in all, help them move into the sphere of dialogue and partnership, which is a different level. It takes us to a deeper level of both communication and also of being able to share the work and the co-construction of the shared reality. We will make the claim that shared society requires the ability to arrive at the co-constructing reality together and the sense of partnership. And I will try to clarify a little bit, with the little time that I have today, the terminologies of partnership and dialogue. Again, the model does that. You can find it in the book, and you can find it in the practices that we're trying to move forward. So the concept clarification has to do with clarifying dialogue, clarifying relationality. I do need to say another word or two about relational premises, different from individualistic premises. I will clarify a bit the notion of partnership, different from collaboration, and I will move to discuss shared society as distinction from coexistence, which was the term mostly used until about a decade ago. I'll try to do all of that in the next 5 or 10 minutes. That's a lot to achieve. I hope I'll be able to do at least a bit of that. Dialogue, just to say a few words, the etymology of dialogue is dia, through logos, the meaning of the word. There's no two in dia. It's not die in terms of two people. The meaning of the word through, and as David Bohm, one of the most genius writers on dialogue, says, dialogue is a stream of meaning flowing among and through us and between us. This is something else than what we usually think about communication. In dialogue, he says elsewhere, each person does not attempt to make common certain ideas or items of information that are already known to him, but rather it may be said that two people are making something in common, i.e. creating something new together. Bill Isaacs, his students, says so beautifully, dialogue is a conversation with a center, not with sides. So we need to take that into account. When we talk about a relational approach, we need to understand that relational premises are different, utterly different philosophically in terms of how they perceive the human self. Okay, we need to look more deeply into these premises, where it criticizes the problem solving and the interest-based approach, that saying that this approach, the problem solving approach, emphasizes the sovereignty of the autonomous self, each side as an independent, unitary, self-motivated and self-regulating identity. The relational approach, on the other hand, says that there is no isolated self or fully private experience. All intelligible action is born, sustained, and extinguished within the ongoing process of relating. We exist in a world of co-construction, co-emergence. We are always already emerging from and within relations. Okay? And I gave kind of a citation here of Kenneth Gergen, important thinker of our time, and more in particular to his book, Relational Being. He articulates these ideas as well. So don't get too alarmed. It's not a kumbaya.
5 minutes.
Yeah, it's not something that takes away also the individuality of actors, but it's about understanding how they come by and how they are joined together. So the paradigm shift is from a rational independent actor, from rational independent actors reasoning the way toward identified goals, moving to an emergent properties of coordinated action. That's a huge paradigm shift. From an individualistic perspective, interaction, negotiation, conversation is what you see on the left, party A and party B exchanging. But relational being or dialogic mindset is about partner A and partner B co-constructing their relations and their reality jointly. You may even say that the paradigm shift is from coexistence to shared space or shared society in the very same terms. Coexistence is about exchanging and kind of side by side working on each of our interests, shielding our identity and looking at satisfying our interests, as opposed to shared society, developing a shared space in which there's a dialogic communication and activity taking place. So we're moving towards a new definition of shared society. I'll need to be brief, and I apologize. Shared society, we understand, the book understands, the model understands, that our practice aims for is the ongoing co-construction of the shared reality, understanding self-identity as interdependent and impermanent, changing in situ. Again, we get there, we don't start there, okay? Shared responsibility for the well-being of the entire region. It's a systemic approach to seize the whole prior to the drawing of dividing lines. This is why well-being is the well-being of all of the system. Joint and ongoing learning, exploration processes, a new and thorough understanding of the notions of inclusivity and social cohesion. If you think about it for a moment, inclusivity gets a new meaning altogether, and with these premises in mind and heart. So we move from participation that I mentioned on the early side of the spectrum. We move in the spiral. We're moving from participation to collaboration. From collaboration, we aim at arriving at partnership. Okay, so if I go quickly back to the Miska steam bed ceremony and again to the celebration ceremony, and when I ask the question, when we ask in Givat Haviva, what would be sustainable achievement? What would be a mean to see that there's a sustainable change? We're looking at ongoing environmental collaboration. We're looking at something that is a bit different because officials come together, residents come together from both municipalities. Collaboration includes, among other practices, mutual learning and feedback on environmental issues, joint decision making, schools working together. So that's at large. Then capacity building, it's about joint initiation, implementation of a long-term complex environmental project. That's not something to be taken lightly. That's difficult. Okay, capacity building also has to do with the Arab municipality developing working relations with national and environmental agencies that I just hinted before, putting up grant proposals and receiving money that wasn't possible before. It's about cultivating skills and mechanisms for public participation, raising awareness for regional environmental work, building regional Jewish Arab leadership, developing infrastructure for institutionalization of environmental action in the Arab municipality that wasn't there before, building the, and so I want to skip a bit, but when we eventually celebrate the rehabilitation of the stream bed and the trail and the ecological celebration, I hope that when we plant the tree, and it's about asking the question, what are the roots that will that this tree will have, I hope that we see the entire picture here and we understand sustainability in a more complex and profound manner. I will just take the last minute or two to speak about managing extreme conditions. I did say before that that I will come back to it. And alongside, as part of the project, we had a project of regional collaboration for emergency preparedness in Wadi Ara, in which we were able to identify a model and develop a model of collaborative action. Jewish and Arab municipalities regionally come together in order to build emergency preparedness protocols aimed at both helping us be better prepared, and we see that, you know, that needs more work, and also how to collaborate and how to work together, how to work jointly, that will also support social inclusion. This is something that nowadays we see more and more need of that. So that's a work in progress. We're expecting to get a grant soon that will help us also exercise and implement it in one of the eshkolot that already exist. Again, I cannot go into the eshkolot, the regional concept of eshkolot today here. So the book ends with and concludes with lessons learned and challenges. We lay dilemmas and challenges in need of further analysis and development. We don't pretend to present a complete model. This is an invitation for implementation, that each context in which it will be implemented requires adjustments, adaptation, and further consideration of these and other dilemmas. This is an invitation also for ongoing reflection and development, also on the theoretical level, to which I hope this book is contributing. I cannot go over them. Again, these are the headings of the last chapter that you can find in the book. I am sure that the speakers in today's conference will address at least some of these dilemmas and challenges. So thank you. I hope you were able to bear with me throughout this presentation, and the book is available for you online, obviously in 3 languages, and you have my email, and you're more welcome to continue the exchange and discussion that if we will not end, and I hope we will not end it today. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Ran. We have I have one question in the chat that was sent to me privately. Others are welcome to write questions in the chat. We are going to take some questions now. So on the question that I'm getting in the chat is from Alex Chelsky. Are inequalities of power or power dynamics dealt with, and how?
Yeah. Wonderful question. So it's also one of the issues to deal with that we're dealing with at the end of the book. Obviously, when we enter this partnership, we cannot speak about equality in terms of capacity, in terms of connections, in terms of the infrastructure and resources that are there at hand. Jews understand that there's heavy lifting that needs to be done. Arab communities understand there's a lot of learning that ought to be done and kind of catching up. Early on, we don't frame it in such a way. And it's a question because we come at first with building a partnership, not building, developing infrastructure and capacity building. But as we enter the trust relations and the ability to work together, people say, yes, there's a lot of learning that needs to be done. And in that respect, for example, I gave the Miska a stream bed, all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, it's a long process, but there's infrastructure for environmental work. Many Arab municipalities don't have environmental units in them. With the help of such a project, it is more possible. They don't have leadership in the community that know how to deal with environmental issues and how to help promote environmental issues. Now they do, now they can. They don't necessarily have the capacity or the know-how of doing public participation processes. Okay, deliberative democracy is something that we're more used to nowadays, not very easy in more hierarchical traditions, and the Arab traditions is a little bit more conservative and hierarchical in that respect. They are exercising and able to do that. So this is all quite helpful. I'm so happy to tell you, I learned only in retrospect that Ma'ale Iron handed in another second big grant and received a second big grant for the second phase of the project. At first I was a bit disappointed. Why wasn't I in the loop? Because, not me personally, but why wasn't it done as part of the partnership? And then I said, that's beautiful. They have the capacity, they exercise it, they do it. Obviously, when the money comes in, it will be the continuation of the partnership working on it. But here's a wonderful example of they have access to resources, accesses to those who have the money, those who are able to grant the money, or how to also execute projects of this type. Just an example, and there's so many.
Okay, so thank you. We have time for one other question. People can write in the chat, or you can go to the participants panel and raise your hand if you want. Any questions? Okay, apparently not. So Juan, you have an extra couple of minutes if there's anything you want to say and didn't get to.
Actually, I was training so hard how to fit everything in the 22 minutes that first were supposed to be 30. All of a sudden, I have more time. Wow. I will say this.
Not too much, 2 minutes.
No, yeah. I will say this. We aspire at arriving at something that takes so much time, so much patience. It's not something you exhaust in 4 or 5 years. My students are here with us, our students, Karen, are here with us. Only this week we were talking about John Paul Lederach and his kind of architecture of a generation-wide project, programs and processes. These things we don't succeed in 5 years to celebrate, the achievement of kind of the higher levels of the spiral. We need to hold both. We need to hold the tension, okay? We need to be able to contain the conflict, if you will, without turning it into a clash between being very concrete, very materialistic with regard to moving forward and helping exercise and execute stuff on the ground with kind of our heads and aspirations in the sky in terms of our hopes and visions. What I hope for the field, we're kind of this field and discipline of peace building and conflict resolution. What I hope for that we will continue to develop our theoretical infrastructures so that we have the roots, firm roots in the ground with which we move into the practice, and then we have the sustainability ourselves as organizations. We have the patience, we have the stamina to continue, and knowing that, life is throwing at us curveballs day in and day out. Life is way more difficult than what it seems in theory. How do we manage there? We move 2 steps forward, 1 step backwards, sometimes 3 steps backwards, especially now in Israel. The zeitgeist is not really calling for shared society. So We need to be very patient and persistent at the same time.
Okay, thank you very much again, Ran.
And I look forward to all the comments and feedback from not only the panelists, but whoever wants to continue discussion with us through emails or whatever, please feel free to do so.
Okay, thank you.